Okay. All right. After that malfunction, let's try again. Okay. So we're once again, this is session number 4 of the woman in God's design, the design of that God has given for the woman, and we've been looking at her primary human relationship, which is to her individual man. This relationship that all of humanity is founded on, the man-woman relationship or the husband and wife relationship. Very, very incredibly important for this relationship to be protected and to ensure that it conforms to the design that God gave. Because if the foundations be destroyed, what can the righteous do? So here on page 23, the woman was made for the man, and as such, the man was originally designed to be the primary authority. Now, authority understood with that accurate definition. So the primary authority, or the head, and the definer of criteria for them. She, as being made from the man, is to be submissive to her man, assisting him in being all that God has designed him to be. She is focused on the good of the man. He is going to have that broader focus, that leadership focus on how, let me put that, I think that clears that up. The leadership focus on how everything is affected in different situations, setting the goals, etc. He has a broader perspective than what the woman has. He, the man, as the authority in the relationship, is commanded by the design of God to help and assist the creation. Now, understand this. So that very first part sounds very, for the most part, sounds very common. He's the authority. She's there to where is it? To submit to him. Now, he is the head. He is the authority. But there's two sides of this, right? So you have the woman that's designed to be his helper, as according to the prominence of him. But at the same time, you have the man who is the head, who is the authority, that in order to be an accurate authority in the design of God, he is to turn as the head and not submit his authority, but submit himself to the needs of his woman in order to strengthen her as she submits to her authority and gives what is good, what is according to God's design, to him. So he, recognizing his authority and headship, recognizing that she is his Ezer Kenegdo, that she is his helper, he gives to her what she needs to strengthen her in the design of God, and she doing so as well. So the submitting to the woman is not submitting the authority or the headship over the woman. But let me read I want to make it very clear, though, if I can. I'll give the picture and then I'll move on, and it'll click. It should click. The woman from the submissive role. By the way, that doesn't mean a lesser value or anything like that. But she was not designed to be the head or the authority. But she, as his Ezer Kenegdo, as his helper according to the prominence of him or his specific needs, she is to seek to interact with him and strengthen him in the design of God and give him what she owes him, which is what God's designed her to give. And he, as the head, as the authority, owes his woman as well. He owes her what he's been designed by God to give her, meaning he's been designed to strengthen her, to help her be that all God has designed her to be. And instead of two heads clashing, and two heads trying to be the authority, and two heads trying to get their own way, now you have two heads seeking to assist and help each other in those two distinct design roles that God created for them. In that, you could say symbiotic relationship. Okay, that's where you begin to grow in that. in that true strength of marriage, that true strength in the design of God. So incredibly important there. So this next part is often missed. So he, the man, is the authority or the head in the relationship, is commanded by the design of God to help and assist the creation in the design of God by accurately representing the Creator. So the male, just as the female is, but the male is designed by God to accurately represent the Creator to the entirety of the creation, because he's made in the image as according to his likeness, which means he owes his woman that. He owes it to her. So, he's designed by God to help and assist the creation by accurately representing the Creator. This, of course, includes his woman, as she is his primary human relationship. Often what happens is the man is very eager to have that relationship with everybody else but his wife. He's willing to go out on limbs, and he's willing to go help this person over here and this person over here and help in all of these ways. And his woman tends to be neglected to his own detriment. Thus, he as well is commanded by his Creator from the position of authority to assist his woman, to strengthen her to the prominence of her, meaning designed to strengthen her in her exact needs and weaknesses that are specific to her. So, as the authority, as the authority in the relationship, it is under his stewardship. It is under his dominion to ensure that his woman is strengthened and given precisely what God would have her to be given from her man. This goes both ways. It's not just for the woman, or it's not just for the man. This goes both ways. So, he has no right to treat his woman any way he wants. She is a part of him, his own flesh. He is accountable for taking into consideration his woman in every aspect of life. Man, knowing her design and knowing that she as well as finite, knew that he had to help her be all that God had designed her to be, and that by doing so, she would be more suited to help him be all God had designed him to be. So, meaning a natural outcome. So why does the man give strength to the woman? And then why does the woman give strength to the man? Because that's what God has commanded. The byproduct of that is that when I strengthen my woman in order for me to strengthen my woman, in order for the woman to strengthen her man, it takes work, it takes study, it takes seeking after the Creator and studying the other person to see precisely how you need to interact with them to give them strength. It's not a passive activity whatsoever. This is very hard, laborious work, but it's very, very important. It's very important. So I have to know my wife's weaknesses and strengths. I have to know how she thinks. I have to know what makes her tick. I have to know these details while I am seeking after my God in my primary relationship, so that I can then give to her the strength that she needs, and she vice versa, and so on and so forth. The byproduct of that relationship is that when I am giving strength, I'm not losing strength. When the woman is strengthening her husband and she's giving strength, she's not losing strength. Well, hello, Hazel. Here. Hi. Okay. So it's okay. All right, you need to go to mama. Then you have to sit right here and be quiet, okay? Okay, go on. Clark. Yep, you sit with Clark, but be quiet. Okay. Normally, if you give something away, you no longer have it. And we can easily tend to have the idea that, well, if I do what I'm talking about right now, then I will exhaust myself and I will be without strength because I'm strengthening her. But God has designed it to where when you do that, you actually don't lose strength. You're actually strengthening yourself. Your man or your woman is you. You are one flesh. And when you strengthen the other, you're strengthening yourself. And as she is strengthened in the design of God, she gives more strength. As you receive more strength, you give more strength. So you're not lacking anything. By giving, you're actually getting. By releasing and letting go, you're actually growing. This is God's design for the marriage relationship. Verse 23 here. I believe that's chapter 2. I didn't put the chapter in there, sadly. Okay. And Adam said, "This is now bone of my bones." So the Lord has presented Eve to him, and Adam said, "This is now bone of my bones." It's interesting, he knows what bones are. "And flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man." The word woman there, I don't think I get into it here, but the Hebrew word for man is the Hebrew word ish. All he did when he called her woman was add the feminine ending to the word ish, creating the word isha. So he is saying that she shall be called the female me. She's bone of my bone. She's flesh of my flesh. She is me, the feminine me. So, verse 24, "Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh." Why? Because when that occurs, she is the female him. There is no distinction. They are one flesh. So, top of page 25. Now that they are one, they will carry out the design of God for their lives, being fruitful, multiplying, intensively filling the earth and subduing it, all from this primary human relationship of man and woman. This will often take the form of physically leaving mom and dad, as they are now, I just put one there, didn't I? Fix that. As they are now structured outside of the power and the authority of the parents. Once they become one flesh, they are no longer under the authority of their parents. Okay? So the focus, though, is not on the moving away. Specifically looking at verse 24, "Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they two shall be one flesh." But the focus is not the moving away from, although that's going to happen. But it's no longer being under the authority of their parents. The parents are no longer to seek to control them and manipulate their relationship. That destroys many relationships. This destroys God's design for each male helping his woman be all God has designed her to be, and vice versa. Think about it. There's a lot here, so let me try to get into it. If the parents of the two that have now become flesh, if they try to, you can say, butt in or insert themselves as the authority in that relationship, it's breaking the cycle of the woman giving strength to the man giving strength to the woman. In that design that God has given, there's no strength. There's no open position for anybody else to come in there and try to be that authority. Now, when the man or the woman turn to their parents and give their ear to their parents and start listening to them over their spouse, you've now broken that relationship of the man and woman strengthening each other, and it's very destructive. Now, the parents still have a relationship with those children. They're still their children, full grown. They're still their children. They still have a relationship. They're still there to give godly guidance, godly counsel, and wisdom, right? And to help and assist where it's asked and where it's needed. So that relationship continues to grow. But the error of it is when the parents try to insert themselves and control that couple that are now one. So that would be the big difference there. Okay, page 26. Once again, we see this. And God blessed them and said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. So, God, having identified to man the exact nature that he was designed to accurately represent, the power and authority of the Creator, also identifies the extent or boundaries, the limitations or extent of man's authority. Here, the Creator reveals in this Hebrew parallelism that the extent of his authority that he is to exercise extends to the entirety of creation, including all the animals and matter that was created. Thus, humans' responsibility is to steward, to accurately represent God to the entirety of that which is created. God's blessing to mankind was what he said, meaning, and God blessed them and said unto them. So everything he gave was that blessing. Said differently, God's blessing to mankind was giving to him the Creator's design for their existence. To live contrary to this is to not exist in his blessing. So that's what I have so far pertaining to the woman's primary human relationship. I have a ton of work I'm going to be doing in that. There's some more things I've got to do in there. Now, on page 28, we have God's design of the mother in direct relationship to her children. So her secondary human relationship is to her children. In Genesis 3:16, it states, unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. Now, we've looked at the man's side. Right now, we're simply looking at the woman's side. So, due to the woman's violation of the design of God, the Lord gives certain things to her that will affect her and all mothers who come after her. Although man sees these as curses, they are in fact blessings. God cursed the serpent, which was a blessing to man. Adam and Eve put themselves under the curse of sin. Adam and Eve for themselves chose to violate the design of God. But the Lord had already designed a plan to become the sin, their violation, for them, which was a blessing to man. Every punishment given to Adam and Eve is, just like it states in chapter 3, verse 17, was for thy sake. Meaning that verse 16 was given to the woman as a blessing. If in verse 17 it states that this is given for thy sake. Okay? So this is extremely important here. It wasn't a curse, it was a blessing. Eve's punishment was not punishment, but the design for her safety and the design of how she is to interact with her children that will come. The design of training up a child in the way he should go. The design of God on how to bring them back from death, as we see in Genesis 2:17, into life, back into the accurate relationship their Creator designed them to have with Him. There's a difference now. Adam and Eve violated the design of God. See, now their children are going to be born in violation. This is a whole new thought process for Adam and Eve. This is a whole new thing, right? So now that they violated, their children are going to be born alienated from God. They're going to be born violational. They're going to be born in death, needing to be trained up in the way they should go, needing to be turned and brought into truth. See, this is really huge. So if they had not violated the design of God, then their children would not be born alienated. They would be born in life, growing and growing in the design of God, never knowing violation. But instead, because of the choices that they made, it affected the children to that degree that they were born violational. Now, Adam and Eve are every single day going to see the consequences of their actions. They're going to see the great gravity, the great weightiness of needing to train up a child from the mouth of his way, like we talked about Wednesday night, from the mouth of his way into maturity, bringing them back from death into life. So in Genesis 3:16, the Lord gave Eve 4 things that would immediately affect her. 4 things that are needed to give her for her good. God gave it, which means it's according to His design for her to have, which means it's good. So it's for her good. Due to her violation of the design of God and the unchangeable repercussions of that violation that will last throughout all their generations. You understand? These what we would view as negative or undesirable conditions would be a constant reminder to Adam and Eve of the absolute, it would remind them of why they're in the situation that they're in. It wouldn't end there. That would kind of be the start of the thought process, but it would be the driving factor that would cause them to be dedicated to training their children accurately. The first effect is, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow, and indicates that, as with Adam, life will become much more difficult. Man and woman were already designed to work before they violated the Creator's design. They were already designed to dress and keep the garden. They were already designed to work. But now work would be toil, difficult in a great way, as a reminder of their violation. Now, do you think that they'd be just walking around like, oh, the violation? Or do you think that constant recognition of violation and the difficulties that it brings, would that not immediately draw them to that thinking of the one that the Creator promised that He would send to pay for their violations? Would it not glorify the Creator immediately and reminding them that the Lord has already provided a way back? It absolutely would. So, as a reminder of their violation, for the purpose of recognizing for all generations the violation and what rejecting the design of God brings upon all peoples, difficulty and hardship. Man destroys himself by rejecting his Creator. And so that extra difficulty and hardness that's given reminds us of that. So the second effect is that her conception will be greatly multiplied, closely associated with her sorrow, meaning displeasure, grief, or labor. Her design is that her pregnancy and giving birth will come with great pain, discomfort, and labor. So the process of birthing a child will be difficult. Now you can think of, how would that be good? Once again, the Creator's already told them, or he will shortly tell them, of the one who will be coming from the seed of the woman. You see, so it's not simply, let me try to wrap my head around this real quick, but it's not simply that it's more difficult, oh, woe is me. It's a reminder of the violation, but at the same time, it's a reminder of the one who provides that preservation again, that way back to him. And so it draws their mind back to God as the only way of salvation, that which is true life. So let's see. The third effect is, in sorrow thou shalt bring forth children. This is not simply talking about giving birth, although that can be included. This effect is that now, with great labor and difficulty, she and all mothers that follow her will now have to train up their child from unbelief to belief in the Creator, causing firmness to him and the design that they were created to exist in. You see, you think of, she would absolutely be perfectly cognizant of their violation, and what that has brought, what that caused, and what the repercussions were of that. She would be absolutely aware, they both would, but she would be absolutely aware of, think of the weight on her, so to speak, of what she brought in, and knowing that her children are born in violation, needing to come back, and their responsibility as the parents to bring them back. I think they would have taken that extremely seriously. So, they will now need to mother, nurture from the design of the woman that God has built into them and the design he created them in, to give the child moment by moment, not just what they need to stay alive and be healthy, but to give the child step by step what they need next to grow in the nurture and admonition of the Lord, maturing them into the design of God. So this is talking about that bringing forth children is that constant training, that constant guidance from error into truth, from error into maturity, that is going to be absolutely necessary for that child. Well, it's still God's design today. That hasn't changed, right? So as the mother and father have turned to the Lord, now they are having children of their own that they're needing to bring from death into life. And so all of this work is passed down from generation to generation, of course. The fourth effect was written in Hebrew parallelism, and it states, "And thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee." Notice that "shall be" is italicized, which means it's added there. Meaning that she would naturally seek to have her desire, her longing or craving, to be the rule in life over her husband. Isn't that the natural inclination? Right? But instead, he will rule over her, indicating that there is now, due to the violation, going to be conflict rising up, both wanting to exercise their authority, but he would rule over her. This too would be a reminder of the terrible effects of violating the design of their Creator, which is to vividly bring to her mind her need to exist in the design of her Creator, and not seek to her own will, as it will only destroy. So her natural tendency now will be for her to have her own way. And you see, What happened? What happened in the garden? What did she do? Her design was to give strength to her husband. But what did she do? She brought weakness to her husband. In so doing, she is claiming to have the authority to bring to her husband whatever she wants to, and he's to submit to whatever she brings him. You see that? So that's her part. Now, we've gone over the man's part, but that's in a nutshell, that's her part. And so now that violational nature is going to continue to desire to be that way, for her to, or prod, or you could say nag, or try to manipulate him in some way to do what she wants him to do. Now that is the natural woman's nature. By the way, it's also in a manner the man has his own violational nature. The woman has her own. So when they butt heads, they explode. Right. So right now we're just talking about the woman because we've already talked about the man. So it's not beating her up in any way. But by her doing so, by her desiring for her to be the authority, it's extremely destructive to this relationship. And so it takes the fact of recognizing that and rejecting that thought process and submitting ourselves to the design of God in order for that relationship to work properly. So she will naturally desire to step outside of her design that God has given her for her life. And the man so as well from his perspective, and the woman as well. Okay, so page 32. We have Genesis 3:20 and Genesis 3:21 here. And Adam called his wife's name Eve. Now this portion I've got a ton of work to do in it because there's so much here. But verse 20, and Adam called his wife's name Eve because she was the mother of all living. Unto Adam also and to his wife did the Lord make coats of skin and clothe them. Now, this is really interesting. Why didn't he name her Eve when the Lord brought her to him? Did he not know that all life would come from her at that point? Did he not know God's design for having children? Of course he did. But he called her woman. He recognized he is the man and this is the female me. But he didn't name her. And by the way, the naming of her also shows authority. So, why now? What has changed since then? I hear often like, oh yeah, because she's the mother of all living, meaning that, everybody, and this portion is true, but I'm confident this is not the picture of what's happening. It's not simply that all children, all generations will stem from Eve, stem from the womb of Eve. That was already known when he called her woman. The name Eve, the scripture there gives us the meaning of her name because she's the mother of all living. Her name was Hawa. Hawa means I'm going to butcher it, but it means life or living or something. There's something to do with life. I need to write it down. I do there, don't I? I think I do. Yeah. So because she's the mother of all living. But what has changed? See, and then verse 21, unto Adam also and to his wife did the Lord God, notice the Lord God, so you have his name, Yihya, the God who exists, and then the title God denoting his authority over them. So their authority, the God who exists, make coats of skin and clothe them. So what's happening there is the Lord is teaching them the sacrifice that would come. So he clothes Adam and Eve in coats of skins. So they had already tried to cover themselves up in fig leaves, and which indicating that they tried to cover themselves up to be righteous and to cover up their violation. So their own good works didn't work, but the Lord had to provide covering for them. And so them being covered, them being clothed in that animal skin is a picture of them accepting or causing firmness, believing in what the Creator here is telling them, which is the Messiah that would one day come. This, I'm confident, is the very first sacrifice. The Lord sacrificed animals. He taught them exactly what it meant, because remember, their sons sacrificed, so where'd they learn it from? Well, their parents. Well, where'd their parents learn it from? Well, from their God, when they took their fig leaves off and they took his clothing, is a picture of being clothed in his righteousness, having believed into him for salvation again. So the Lord immediately provided salvation to them, as he had already had it planned in eternity, that he would send, that the Creator himself would come into the earth in the form of a man and sacrifice himself on the cross for the sins of mankind. So this is the Creator explaining all of that to them. It's really interesting. So they both received the coats. They both received the coats of skins. Once again, understand, they've never seen an animal bleed before. And the Creator who created it all, killed them. And the blood had to be shed. You think they'd ever forget that? No way. No way. And then as they have children, you think they'd ever forget that? No. That picture of their need to train their children back into truth? No. Having been born perfect and violating, and now that repercussion being passed on to all their generations, they would have never forgot any of this. And it would cause them to be very, very established and very firm in training their children to come. So, verse 21 indicates that Adam and Eve were repentant and turned back to the Creator and caused firmness to him once again. In verse 20, Adam calls his wife's name Eve, and then it gives us the cause or reason being that she was the mother of all living. The verb was, she was the mother of all living, is the cal perfect, meaning completed action, third feminine singular, meaning she, form of the verb of existence, indicating that at the time of naming her Eve, she had already caused firmness to God and to the fact, the truth, that the Lamb of God one day would come to be sacrificed for them, paying the debt that they owed, because she, at the time of naming her, currently existed as the mother of all living. Yes, as the one from whom all future life would come, but doing so from having caused firmness to God and his design. She would exist a godly mother, a true mother as defined by the Creator. Now we can have mothers. Just the fact of having a child does not indicate that one is a mother. God has defined specifically what a mother is. And he's defined precisely what that is, and same with the father. So, defined by the Creator, meaning one who sought to lead her children, grandchildren, etc., and those around her from unbelief to belief, from lack of knowledge of the Creator into knowledge of the Creator. One who sought to train and nurture them from inside the design that God created her in, a design that was and is irreplaceable. One who sought to train and mother them into an accurate knowledge and relationship with their Creator. So at the time of naming her, she had already turned back and caused firmness to God. So what is her interaction going to be with all of her children, grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren, and so on and so forth? She is going to be a woman who is established back into truth, drawing and calling all of her children to come back into truth with her. She's the mother of all living. This is the Creator's design for a mother, a woman who seeks to interact with her child, no matter the age of the child, a woman who seeks to nurture, to mother the child, interacting with them for the purpose of their growth and knowledge in the Lord their God. So that's why he named her Eve. She had caused firmness back to God, and she is going to be that she's going to be that very first female, that first woman, that first mother, who when all these children are born, she's going to have that relationship that she alone could have of calling them all back into truth. Which that design is not just, she's the first, but that design is not just left to her. See, as her children, her daughters turn to truth, they're now established in the design of God. And now they're going to have children. And now they're going to need to be reaching and teaching their children into truth. And then those children grow up, and then those women, see, that is God's design for the mother. That's God's design for the relationship of the mother to the children. You see, this goes far beyond just getting children to obey. Okay? This is incredible work and training from error into truth. So that's the end of it for now. I've got a lot of work to do in this. And then, Lord willing, next week we will pick it up with the children's relationship to the parents. Any questions, any thoughts, comments? Okay. Alrighty.